Hi, everybody, and welcome today. We're glad to have you here, and we're going to be doing a presentation on Great Trains and Grand Canyons with Jennifer Powers. I'm Sherrie Funk with Just Cruisin Plus, and Jennifer is our District Sales Manager with Premier World Discovery. We're going to be doing a tour with them this fall with Great Trains and Grand Canyons, but you can do this pretty much any time with them. And Jennifer's going to give you the highlights of it and tell you all about it. So Jennifer, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Sherrie, and thank you so much for having me here today. I am with Premier World Discovery, and I have the wonderful opportunity to present to you today our Great Trains and Grand Canyons itinerary. And it features 5 nights in Sedona with Just Cruisin Plus. We have a departure date of November 1st of this year. As Sherrie had mentioned, there are other dates upon request that you can request from Sherrie. But this is an unbelievable destination. And before I get into that, I just wanted to share with you a little bit more about Premier World Discovery. A lot of people have not heard of us because we are a much smaller tour company, but we've been in business for 20 years. Our headquarters are out in Redondo Beach, California, and we do specialize in group travel for the active older adults. We have over 70 worldwide itineraries, and now is the time for domestic travel. The national parks are hot right now. We were heavy domestic anyways, and we've just added some additional domestic itineraries to our lineup. But we specialize in quality, service, and value with a group-only focus. Memberships and associations are so important nowadays. USTOA, the United States Tour Operator Association, which I'll touch on in a moment, but also we're members of American Bus Association and National Tour Association. I wanted to point out that we have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. As I mentioned, USTOA, meaning the United States Tour Operator Association, it's the largest and most influential U.S. organization for tour operators. And there are 54 of the top U.S. tour operators in the country. It offers a $1 million protection plan to consumers in case something happens with our company or any travel company that you may be utilizing. I know that this is extremely important. Charlie and Sherrie Funk from Just Cruisin Plus, they make sure that they're working with travel providers that are members of USTOA. What do we include? We're very inclusive when it comes to features. I wanted to mention round trip airfare will be done through Just Cruisin Plus. We do arrange for the motor coach transportation. Now with COVID, sanitizing and cleanliness are top priority to make sure that our passengers are safe and comfortable. We are doing, actually the motor coach company is doing something similar when it comes to making sure the bus is clean. They are misting the buses each evening. They wipe them down. The driver and the escort will be wiping down the motor coach multiple times during the day. There will be hand sanitizers throughout the bus, but also if you forget your mask, we will actually provide you one. Daily breakfast is included. We will have a wonderful breakfast buffet each day, and there's going to be a few dinners as well on the tour. There is a full-time tour director that is with you the entire time, and they are the experts in that area. This is a picture of Cliff, one of my tour guides out in Sedona. We primarily use him the entire time on all of our tours. He has a great personality, very knowledgeable, and you will learn a lot from him. We also include first-class hotel accommodations and inclusive sightseeing. So whatever you see on the itinerary, which can be requested through Sherrie and Charlie, whatever you see on there is what is included. We have a nationwide sales consultant team, and we just spent our sales meeting back in January out in Sedona, and this is actually Bell Rock in the background, and it was beautiful, beautiful weather. We have an inside customer support team out in California. So we will be flying round trip from Nashville into Phoenix. Some of our highlights, and I wanted to show you the itinerary map because, as I mentioned, we'll fly round trip into Phoenix. We will transfer north up into Sedona, and we will unpack for 5 nights. So this is a 1 hotel stay. We call it a hub and spoke itinerary. As you can see here, the different destinations or the different places that we will be going to on this itinerary. As far as highlights, 2 train experiences. We get to go out to Grand Canyon National Park. There are a couple of entertainment dinner experiences, lots of sightseeing as well. As I mentioned about meals, there are 8 meals included on this itinerary, 5 breakfasts and 3 dinners. The accommodations that we use will either be the Hilton Sedona, the Paco Diablo Resort, or the Courtyard by Marriott. And we will be using on this departure the Hilton Sedona. So you're in for a real treat. It's a great property. All 3 properties are wonderful. So on day 1, as I mentioned, we're going to fly into Phoenix, transfer north to Sedona. And they do call it the most beautiful place on earth, and you will see why once you get out there. There will be a welcome dinner that evening. You'll have a little time before the dinner just to relax, have a cocktail, enjoy the beautiful views. And during dinner, you'll get to know your neighbors a little bit better. On day 2, we'll have our Sedona Trolley tour. And the Sedona Trolley was established back in 1993. It's definitely the best way to get around Sedona and see all of the sights. One of my favorite sites is McDonald's. And you can see it's a little bit different than the golden arches that we see everywhere else because Sedona has specific city building codes. And the beautiful views that we'll see from Airport Mesa. So the hard rock here had a thin layer of iron oxide that was caused by chemical weathering of natural minerals. So the process of the iron oxide is weathering, which has turned the rock to its signature red color. Now, the locals like to go around naming all of these rocks. And this is Snoopy Rock. If you can see him there, just to point out, there is a little rock. It's almost white at the tip of his nose. That would be Woodstock. So all of these different rock formations will be pointed out to you. They're a lot of fun. Here's Coffee Pot Rock, a little percolator. And I wanted to show you a great video that I took. Gives you a 360-degree view of the canyons. You're just surrounded by this unbelievable beauty. The air is so fresh. You will be rejuvenated once you return home. We will visit Chapel of the Holy Cross, another beautiful site. Now, Marguerite Stodd, who had been inspired by the 1932 newly constructed Empire State Building. She was inspired to build such a church, and this was finished back in 1956. So the chapel is still under the Episcopal Roman Catholic Diocese of Phoenix. And also, they do not have services anymore, with the exception of a prayer vigil that they have on Tuesday evenings. But the chapel is open. It's beautiful sights, as you will see. This was actually 2 years ago when we were in Sedona. Taken, right up there at the chapel, you can see a courthouse rock in the background, but just beautiful red rocks. And the flowers that you'll see, the cacti, the different types of cacti, and possibly a rainbow. This was a rainbow that we saw a couple of years ago. Just absolutely spectacular, breathtaking. And talking about Sedona, so T.C. Schnebly, he was actually one of the original homesteaders of the area, and he suggested the names of the town. So he submitted Oak Creek Crossing and Schnebly Station to Washington, D.C., but the Postmaster General kicked it back because he didn't like the names, and he said to T.C., "Why don't you name it after your wife?" So therefore we have Sedona. So we'll have a little time in Uptown Sedona where you can grab a coffee or a bite to eat. There's plenty of shopping, outdoor cafes. Then we will be off to Tlaquepaque, and Tlaquepaque means place above clay land. This area is very famous for its pottery and blown glass. And you may be wondering, I've gotten asked a lot of times, what is Tlaquepaque? I mean, where does that come from? And the original Tlaquepaque is actually a city in the Mexican state of Jalisco. Beautiful courtyards, so many artists in the area, sculptures, the courtyards are beautiful. And that evening, you'll have dinner on your own. So there are hundreds of restaurants in Sedona, from casual up to formal, for example. But I wanted to point out, Kachina Rustica is a restaurant which sits right in front, I should say down the hill from the Hilton Sedona. And this restaurant is very unique and eclectic, Italian food, and is owned by Chef Lisa. Chef Lisa Dahl actually owns Kachina Rustica, and she has this wonderful cookbook pictured here, The Elixir of Life. So if you have the opportunity to dine at Kachina Rustica or any of her other restaurants in the Sedona area, I would recommend getting this cookbook. It is fantastic, and there is an unbelievable mother sauce that is just to die for. You'll have the opportunity to enjoy the night sky, and you'll see so many different stars, and you'll be like, why is it so clear out here? Why do I see so many stars? Well, Sedona is a designated international dark sky city, and the Outdoor Lighting Code provides standards for outdoor lighting that will be energy efficient and dark sky compliant. On day 3, we're going to be traveling through Oak Creek Canyon, climbing up to Flagstaff. And after we travel through Flagstaff, we'll go out to Williams, Arizona, which is on famous Route 66, where we will board our first class cars on the Grand Canyon Railway. And the Grand Canyon Railway has been running since 1901, and it is a real steam engine, which you don't see a lot of nowadays. We'll travel through the Ponderosa Groves and High Plains Desert. So again, it's going to take us a little time to get out to the canyon. A lot of people get on the train and they're like, oh, I'm going to see the Grand Canyon once, we start off on our journey. We've got to travel through the Ponderosa Groves and the High Plains Desert. So it's lots of flat land before we get out to the tree line, which will take us out to the Grand Canyon. As I mentioned, we'll be in first class cars. And lots of great entertainment, little cowboy entertainment. There'll be beverage service available, and a wonderful viewing platform will be available. As we pull into the Grand Canyon Railway Station, you'll be getting off of the train and you literally walk across the street to the south rim. And these are the views that you will get. Now, the Grand Canyon, the first expedition was in 1857. And in 2018, a couple of years ago, the national park celebrated 100 years. The canyon is a mile deep and 277 miles long. It's incomprehensible as far as you getting out there and you can usually see it from airplanes. I know I've seen it so many times from airplanes, but it's just hard to put things in perspective out there when you see these deep canyons, and just awe-inspiring. And we'll have the opportunity to go out to some of these viewing areas and these wonderful plaques that you'll see along the way. That evening, once we depart the Grand Canyon, so we will travel out to the canyon by train. On the way back, we'll be traveling by motor coach so we can stop in Flagstaff and enjoy Black Bart's Steakhouse and Saloon. And you are in for a treat here. All of their entertainment is performed. They have singing servers, but the singing servers have to be qualified. And in order for them to qualify to be a server, they need to be in the theater program or music program at Northern Arizona State University in Flagstaff. They have some of the best food. The steak there is just fantastic. The filet mignon is to die for. So you'll be in for a treat. And then we'll return that evening in Sedona. On day 4, we'll enjoy Montezuma Castle, travel to Jerome, and then top the day off at the Verde Valley Railroad. Montezuma Castle. So in the visitor center here at Montezuma Castle, I had to snap this picture hanging out with Teddy. So of course, Roosevelt is often considered the conservationist president. So he was primarily responsible for starting the national parks. Now, once you go into the visitor center, you're going to be like, where is the castle? So there's a small path that leads you out to the viewpoint of Montezuma Castle. And they consider it, actually, we consider it like a 12th century skyscraper. It's just tucked up in those rocks. And the Indians used this, number one, for security, but they liked the tranquility and the peace that you would get up there. But just imagine what it would be like to take water, all the beautiful clay pots, to lift them or carry them up into the castle here. We will travel then to Jerome, Arizona, a very eclectic community. It actually was established by copper mining and now is considered a ghost town. There'll be some time for a coffee or a snack to hold you over until we get to the train. And I wanted to point this out in the foreground here. You'll see these mountains, these peaks, white-capped peaks. And those are the San Francisco peaks right outside of Flagstaff. And you would actually see them on our way back into Flagstaff from the Grand Canyon the day before. So back to Jerome, this is the main street. So again, lots of opportunities to shop, grab an ice cream cone, a little fudge. But I love the shopping. There's so many different artists. And one of my favorite shops is Nellie Bly Kaleidoscopes. And you will see hundreds of kaleidoscopes here created by 90+ artists. And you can go in there and get your grandkids or kids or great-grandkids a kaleidoscope for $1, or you can spend up to $50,000 on a kaleidoscope. It's a lot of fun just to go in and take a look at all the different kaleidoscopes. Now, Jerome is also, or had, a red light district, so we'll learn a little bit more about the shady part of Jerome. And then it will be off to the Verde Valley, where we will board the Verde Canyon Railroad. Now, this train excursion is 4 hours and 21 miles round trip. We will have first-class cabins as well, or first-class cars. And I always love to say, you know, talking about this trip, okay, we get 2 train experiences, we get 2 canyon experiences. This is much different than the Grand Canyon Railroad. So the Grand Canyon Railroad, you're traveling across the plains, very flat, until you get to the tree line, as I mentioned, of the Grand Canyon. You step off the train, cross the street, and you're looking down and viewing the Grand Canyon. So you're looking down. To whereas with the Verde Valley Railway, we're actually traveling through the Verde Valley Canyon. So you're traveling through and looking up these spectacular canyon walls. Now we will travel the river's edge lined with the towering red rock. And there will be car attendants at our service, and they will share their expert knowledge of history, archaeology, geology, Indian lore, and wildlife. There are so many eagles that you'll see, you'll lose count. And we'll travel through a 680-foot man-made tunnel, as pictured here. And we will be treated with complimentary appetizers. Now, once we get to the railroad station, there is a little cafe in there. If you'd like to grab a bite to eat, you can do that. But if you want to hold off, you'll be pleasantly surprised by the appetizer buffet that they'll have ready for you on board the train. There's also beverage service. Cocktails are available for purchase, and you can just kick back and enjoy the views. On day 5, we'll have a day at leisure, so you can enjoy the resort amenities. You can have a swim in one of the heated pools, have a massage at the resort. There's tennis courts, there's golf, of course, just some of the most beautiful golf you'll see in the world here. Now, you can rent golf clubs out there, so don't worry if you really want to play golf. You can do that without having to lug your clubs all the way across town from Nashville to Phoenix. There will also be an optional excursion that you can take advantage of. This is a full day excursion. It's a Sunset Crater and also one of the Indian National Monuments. Or for me, I always like to kick back and enjoy the nature. There's lots of hiking and walking trails that you can take advantage of. This is actually a picture of me and my niece we were out there a few years ago for Christmas, and it snowed again. Just the contrast with the snow and the red clay, but it's also a photographer's dream out there. This is a picture that I took, and I'm still telling myself I need to print it out and frame it and get it on the wall. You can also do some last minute shopping in uptown Sedona. Yeah, and you can even purchase a Red Rock shirt that is dyed of Red Rock clay. It's a nice little souvenir as well. One of my favorite shops is Body Bliss, which is in uptown Sedona. They make these wonderful hand creams, foot creams, you name it, but they have a prickly pear hand cream, which is wonderful, and it's a great gift to bring home as well. That evening, we'll have our final farewell dinner, where you'll enjoy some mouth-watering barbecue chicken and ribs, chuck wagon style, followed by some toe tapping, knee slapping, Western stage production. It's about an hour long. On day 6, we'll travel to Old Town Scottsdale on our way back to the airport in Phoenix. And Old Town Scottsdale is among one of the most vibrant and unique urban downtown centers in the American Southwest. Just beautiful galleries, do a little last minute shopping, and the sculptures that you'll see around the downtown area. And then we'll head back to the Phoenix airport, and you'll return back to Nashville. Now, as I mentioned, our Great Trains Grand Canyons will be departing November 1st of this year. Our tour does include packaged air with Just Cruisin Plus, 5 nights accommodations, our professional tour director, 8 meals, the motor coach transportation, admissions per itinerary, sightseeing per the itinerary, hotel transfers, and baggage handling. We have the 2 rail journeys that you'll take: the Grand Canyon, the national parks, the Grand Canyon National Park, Montezuma Castle National Monument, a couple of dinner entertainment experiences, and then of course all this wonderful sightseeing. So what is the weather like around November? Well, it will definitely be layering. We'll be dressing in layers because our average high will be 65 degrees in November. So layering will definitely be a key, and to bring out some of your fleece. And the rates for this trip is $22.95 per person, double occupancy, with an additional $750 if you would like to come as a single. You can contact Just Cruisin Plus by sending an email to info@justcruisinplus.com. That's info@justcruisinplus.com. Our reservations are first come, first serve. Space is limited. I do believe at this point, Sherrie has 28 people signed up for the trip. We are limiting the number of people on our motor coaches because of social distancing. So our max capacity will be 35 passengers. Deposit is $300 for all of our domestic programs. Charlie and Sherrie with Just Cruisin Plus can provide you with a reservation form. And we hope that you will journey along with us and find your rainbows. So thank you, Sherrie and Charlie, and Just Cruisin Plus.
Jennifer, thank you so much for doing this for us. One of the things that I will tell you is we can do air from any city within the U.S., so it doesn't necessarily have to be just out of Nashville. We can do your air anywhere. We also are going out a day early, and we're going to stay in a hotel in Phoenix just because of situations and problems with the air carriers. We want to make sure everybody gets there and gets there early enough so that you don't miss the transfer to take you to Sedona the next day. So we can do your air in your hotel at the Phoenix airport, and then Premier is going to pick us up at the hotel, transfer us up to Sedona, and we will be there then for 5 nights. So we're turning this into a 6-night trip instead of a 5-night trip. You can also call us, and you can call us at 615-833-0922. Again, that's 615-833-0922, and we'll be glad to send you the information about this trip. We're looking forward to it. I don't know about anybody else, but we're so anxious to travel again, and this just seems like the perfect getaway for all of us to travel within the U.S. Because we can't travel internationally right now. So this is a good opportunity to get away and get away before the holidays hit us. So again, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for watching this presentation, and we hope you'll join us on this trip. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.